This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Sometimes achieving everything that you think you're supposed to be striving for leaves you feeling a little empty.
Perhaps that was the case with today's guest, Allison Liss, who found wild success as an entrepreneur.
But in the end, Allison also discovered peace through meditation and now helps others by honing her own teaching methods. Allison, welcome to Believe in People.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, first of all, you were 28. You were the youngest national sales manager for one of Canada's largest retail chains. Then in 95, you opened your own successful Canadian retail operation, and you were recognized in People magazine as one of the most innovative concepts of its time. Okay, then something changed for you. What was it?
Well, I would say, looking back on it, I would say I began to have signs of menopause. Yeah, in retrospect. But at the time, I did not know that because I was younger, and I just went from basically waking up every day. I loved my job. I loved working, and I kind of was not feeling my usual self, is all I can say. It was the first time I kind of realized I don't think women really talked a lot about it at the time, so I didn't really know what was happening. I was just kind of waking up with a feeling of dread and just not myself, just really not feeling myself.
Well, are you talking about stress or lack of sleep, pressure?
No, it wasn't really like that. It was just like, I just can describe it as a kind of a feeling of dread. Like you just kind of wake up. I mean, you could almost say it was like depression. I think as people would describe depression. And I just thought, this is not really what I'm used to. And so, I had a feeling of like, I just didn't feel like getting out of bed. And it wasn't myself. So I didn't really know what was going on.
And, to take it back a couple of steps, then, Allison, you're a super driven AAA personality. Would you think that, take us back to when you were a kid, and then, because then, it's really interesting then what led to the next steps in your life.
Yes, I was very driven. Like as soon as, like from a very young age, I had like a job. As soon as I could possibly have a job, I was a paper carrier for the Hamilton Spectator. And so I was always very driven. I always wanted to, do something. I didn't like just sitting around and doing nothing. So, and my mind was always going. That's another reason I think I became a meditator, but my mind was just going at 100 miles an hour all the time. So I always say, like, I was kind of going at 100 miles an hour my whole life, really. And it was enjoyable. I can't say I didn't, I loved it. I thought that I was in some ways doing it right, because I liked being productive. I was very good in school. I loved school. So I was very outgoing and very driven, I guess you would say, sort of ambitious, and really just very fast. Just everything. I talked fast. Everything was, let's get it going. Like if I had an idea, I didn't waste any time in developing it and getting it going, and very motivated, highly motivated. And then I kind of just hit this brick wall. That's what it felt like.
Well, were you achieving what many people would describe as success?
Yes. I never felt like I was successful, though, because to me, I was always looking ahead, like the next thing. I wasn't very present, to say the least. And so, in some ways, like everything, there's a good side to it. But like everything, there's a downside to it. So yeah, I remember people would say to me, "Oh, you're so successful," and I would think, "Oh, they just don't understand." Like I would think, "Oh, well, they don't really understand like what success really is," because I actually, I blew a lot of things. I've done a lot. I've had a couple of businesses, and but I've also run into, a lot of catastrophes, of course, along the way. So I always say, like, my whole life is sort of like a roller coaster. Like I get up to the top of something, and then something happens, and it kind of all crashes. And I've had that like probably three specific times in my life, where that's been the case. So I still don't feel like I've done the thing that I was meant to do, or hit a level that I personally would feel really great about.
Yeah. And actually, to that point, then, is there a difference then of what did success look like for you then? And is it different for you now that you've had this experience that we're going to talk about?
Yes, completely. I would say that initially it was just making a lot of money. That's to me what I thought that would be successful, is if I could build something, actually, not win a lottery, not the money itself for the sake of the money, but that was in business. I mean, that's the measurement, if you're making money. And originally when I was working for a large retail chain, I made a lot of money for other people. So, I mean, so that's how I always kind of measured success. Now I do look at as more, as kind of how I would say it's more like time. If you have time to do what you want to do,
Interesting.
I would say that is successful. Yeah.
So you sort of have described well, the light that either went on or went off inside your head when you were talking about having that feeling of dread in the mornings. So let's tell everyone what transformation took place. What did you do? What happened?
Well, as I said, at the time, I just wasn't feeling myself. I felt like I just had to get out of town. I don't know, just that feeling of I need to get away. I should say also, like, throughout my life, I've had my a foot in two worlds. One was kind of a business world. The other one was kind of like a hippie world. So I was always a bit of an enigma in that I was kind of both. Like, and I enjoyed both kinds of people and both kinds of lifestyles. So at this point, I had kind of been in business a lot, and I thought I just need to be in nature. And I had raised my kids. My youngest was 18 at the time. And I just thought, I used to, do canoe trips and climb mountains and, be in nature a lot. And I realized that I had lost that side of myself. So I really just wanted to go away. So I started like Google searching, get away. And I'm thinking retreats, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Maybe a spa, just some place where I could relax, because as I said, I wasn't feeling like myself. And I ended up I know what it was. I was actually giving a speech, because I did a lot of professional speaking as well about business. And I was at this talk, and I was giving a presentation. And when it was over, I heard two women talking, and I heard one of them saying, "Oh, I went on this great retreat." So I went up to her and I said, "Oh, excuse me. Can I just ask where you went?" And the woman, I thought about this afterwards, because I thought it was so, like, I felt it was so like, just anyway, without any thought or whatever, she just writes down on a paper, dhamma.org. And she hands it to me. And like, she didn't even give me eye contact. She goes, "Oh yeah, it's this." And she hands it to me. And so I get this thing, dhamma.org. I think, okay. So I go on the website, and it was a 10-day silent retreat. And it did say it was about meditation, but I didn't know anything about meditation, nothing at all at the time. Like I said, I was in a world of like fast. But I thought, but it said, "Oh, you're going to meditate for, it had the schedule." I'm not going to lie, I did have the schedule, but like a lot of things I do in my life, I didn't pay a lot of attention. I just looked, I thought, oh, 10 days of silence. This is exactly what I need. And, where a lot of people are actually, intimidated by the idea of the silence. Like for me, I was intrigued, because I thought, oh, this is good. It'll take a lot of pressure off of me. I won't have to talk all the time. So I thought it was a good thing. So I signed up, and I ended up going to this 10-day retreat. And I got there, and I will say that after the first 3 days I was there, I thought I wanted to leave. I was having a very hard time. I mean, things were coming up. Just I was having memories of when I was young in school and people that had really upset me that I had not even given much thought to. And like how hurt I was, by teachers or other kids and just people in my life, like all this, I would call it sort of like negativity started like coming into my mind, and I was crying and I was just having a really hard time. And at this particular place, it's the Ontario Vipassana Center. They actually have them all over the world. We have 3 in Canada, and luckily one of them is just near Barrie, Ontario, so not too far. They have this thing where you can sign up if you're having a difficult time, you can talk to the teacher once a day. They give you 5 minutes if you want. So after 3 days, I thought, okay, I've got to get out of here. So I'm going to sign up. I'm going to talk to the teacher. I'm just going to tell them this isn't for me. Another thing is I kind of thought it was in a cult because the people there were like just really beautiful and happy, and their eyes were shining. And I just thought, I think maybe I'm in a cult of some sort. Like I didn't, because again, I'm like a business person, And so I thought a lot of what they were talking about, which is Buddhist principles, which I'm quite familiar with now, but at the time I did not know about. And I thought I got to get out of here. I was suffering big time. And so I went to the teacher and I told her, I got to get out of here. And she said, oh, that's interesting. She said, can you describe how you were feeling before you came here? And I said, yes, I felt like I had to get out of there. I had to get out of here. She goes, oh, that's interesting. She goes, I think you're having a lot of success. She goes, your reaction is quite good, and I think you should stay. And I often look back to that teacher, and I owe her everything because somehow she convinced me to stay. So I stayed, and it was 14 hours a day. Basically, we got up at 4:30. You meditated right away. You broke, of course, to eat, and that was about it. And then otherwise, the meditations were every hour. And something happened to me on the 8th day. And one thing I will say I did for anybody that wants to go is I followed all the instructions. So even though there's silence, there is instruction. There's a fellow that started the whole thing called Goenka. He passed away a few years ago. But he gives you these talks, throughout. And they're describing the technique and what you have to do. And I followed everything to a T. I'm very good at following instructions. And so I did. And on the 8th day, I was there. Something happened to me that was extremely bizarre. I was just sitting in meditation, and all of a sudden, my mind just basically stopped. And I was experiencing a completely different existence than what I would normally experience. For one thing, I felt this overwhelming feeling of just love. Just pure energy of love. And I felt beautiful as just a person. I was looking around at everybody. Everybody was beautiful. I felt intelligent. Like I always felt my whole life like I had to work harder because I always thought, I don't understand this. So I was behind the 8 ball. This was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, like I know everything I need to know. Even though it wasn't really my mind, it was more like a knowing that comes up from down here. And it was unbelievable. And I just stayed in that state for probably at least a day. And I'm not sure, it kind of faded away. So it didn't just stop abruptly. But I came to find out later that what people call that is a samadhi. It's kind of like the holy grail for meditators. It's the state you want to reach into. Like some people call it an enlightened moment, where basically you have no fear, you have no, your conditioned thinking, which is what runs you all the time, is gone. And so basically you're in this kind of pure state, which I came to find out is the natural state. Like that is how we all have access to that. And it is more natural and than the other state. But what happens is, because of the way we're raised, we're not taught the techniques to how to achieve that. And, or for, in my case, that was even a thing, you know, that my whole time. So I began to understand, I guess you would say, in an instant, the workings of the mind. And it became so clear to me that, oh my goodness, my mind is conditioned. The thoughts I have are not coming from within me. They're things that people have put on me, you know, something I read, something I was taught, something I heard. It's not really what I think, you know. And so I saw very, very clearly how my mind had been in my way my whole life and was keeping me separate from this other part of life, which is peace and beauty and love, and how camouflaged it had become by, basically, I would say, mostly fear.
And so, Allison, when you left, so two things. One, you left with this new understanding, and did you immediately want to then teach others? And then, and also, how do we access that? I know those are two very separate questions, but I'm just fascinated.
Yes. Well, actually, funny enough, when I hit that state, I thought, oh my God, everybody has to come and do this. Like every human has to come here and do this. And then my immediate thought after that was like, I don't know anybody that's going to come and do this. Like, it was, first of all, it's really hard. And second of all, like, you have to have 10 days that you can remove yourself from society, because when you go to this place, in order to have, you know, success there, you are, one of the things that happens is all distraction is removed. And that's another thing. That is what keeps us out of that state, is this constant need for distraction. The last thing we want to do is sit with our own selves. And so that's why the teacher said to me in the beginning, oh, you're having success, because I was just sitting with my own self, and it wasn't pretty. It was tough to look at myself, because I could see myself as, you know, we always think somebody else is a horrible person, and we're like, just not. And there I was realizing, oh my gosh, like I have been a horrible person. Like, there's a lot of things I've done that were self-serving or not kind, not compassionate. And so that sort of became clear. So I realized pretty quickly that I didn't know anybody that would really do this. And you can't bring a book. You don't bring music. You're not even allowed to do yoga or exercise or anything. They set it all up for you so that you literally don't do anything. And yeah, so there's no writing. You don't get to bring a piece of paper or a pencil or anything. And so removing all distraction is part of it. So I realized I didn't think anybody I knew would do this. So to tell you the truth, when I came back, I did not speak about this for a year.
Wow.
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my kids. Because I thought it was like kind of crazy. Like, I just thought, what is going on? Like, it was so far out of my element, as kind of what you would say a person that needed to see to believe. You have to prove it to me, you know, all of this stuff. So I just, I really didn't want to tell anybody what had happened, because I was still trying to figure out too for myself, what happened, you know, like what's going on. And I would say it totally changed me. I was different from then on, because I could see my thoughts as something that were, before I was so attached to what I thought and what I believed, you know, and that I was right about things and someone else was wrong about something. Like, I was so in that world that here I was no longer in that world, because every thought I had, I knew immediately. I thought, it's not real. Like, so I just think I kind of changed. And I was working in a store with my daughter at the time, and a couple of the women that were customers came to me. One of them came to me one day, and she said, wow, I love your vibe. Like, you just radiate this peace and beauty. And she goes, I'd love to know, like, how you like that. And I said, oh, well, I'm a meditator. I mean, the one thing that I did do is I kept up the meditation practice. I did keep that up. And so I said, oh, I'm a meditator. And so she said, oh, well, can you show me how to do meditation? So I said, yeah, sure. So she said, oh, come to my house next week. And, you know, show me. So I went, and every week I sat with this lady, and I just basically taught her the technique that I learned. And I actually changed it a little bit, because as I became a meditator, I started to find different ways to access this side of myself, ones that were not as difficult. And I sort of honed my own technique, I would say. And I taught her that. And she was so grateful. And she was like, oh my goodness, she goes, now she never had a samadhi, but she did find that it changed her a lot. And then she said, oh, you've got to show this to my sister. My sister has all kinds of problems and issues. And if you could help her, that would be like a miracle. I said, okay, bring your sister. So then her sister came. And then a third friend came that she wanted to bring. And that woman actually is part of the journey for me too, because she had already been a meditator and for 30 years. And so she came and sat with us. And she had a samadhi with me one day. And she said, oh my goodness, Allison, she goes, I've meditated for 30 years. That's never happened to me. She said, but the way that you just, that you got me to that place was amazing. So that's, I think at that moment when I thought, oh my goodness, like maybe I can help people, and I had actually always felt, even though I think I was probably a very helpful person along the way, I didn't think it was enough, because I thought, oh, I think I could help way more. I would help women in the way that I would find them, a great pair of jeans in my retail environment and stuff like that. But this, I thought, this is profound. Like if I could really help people with this. And so, so this little group, it just slowly built very organically, and people started coming. And I ended up putting this little studio here down in my house in the downstairs. Well, actually I had another one before that, but fast forward to now. And I had a group that came all the time, and I had many people actually that had the experience that I had. And so I thought, perhaps this technique that I'm teaching can really help people that have been meditating forever and have never experienced that place, that peace, which is inside of us. It's not something that you can look for or find, because it's already there. So what you basically have to do is kind of eliminate everything else. And so that's it. And so I've honed those skills of teaching all along. And then when COVID came, all of a sudden, it's so funny because most people weren't really that keen on meditating or didn't know what it was. Now, all of a sudden, the whole world needs to meditate because they're all freaking out. And so I started meditating on the Zoom. And so that actually opened it up. So it wasn't just from my group, it was people that were outside of my group. And it was, so far, it's all been pretty much word of mouth. I haven't marketed it in the way that I probably should or would like to, but I did get a website going and a few things like that. And it is something I've kind of devoted my life to, just helping as many people as I can. And the way I look at it is, if you can just have this experience, even if it's a few moments, a few hours, then I've kind of done my job. Because after that it's kind of for some people, they think it's the end of the journey. It's really the beginning of the journey of starting to realize that you are peace, you are love. And in fact, there's that Beatles song, like, love is all there is.
Yeah.
All you need is love.
All you need is love.
Yeah.
And I like, that just came very clear to me too, that, oh my goodness, like really, that is the only thing that literally exists. In this world, everything else is illusion. It is illusion because everything's energy.
You are starting to sound a little bit like George Harrison now on that. So basically, you go away for 10 days, you put your soul through the rinse cycle, and you can actually cleanse your soul and come out the other side of it. Yeah, it's funny. I just wanted to ask you this. It's kind of an offhanded comment, but you said when you started to meditate, you thought that it was a cult. Have you now sort of realized that actually where you were coming from was the cult, and meditation isn't a cult?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it, Kevin. I would say yes. Yes. Yeah, because
making money, it can, I'm sure you can feel really good about yourself when you have a big power boat and you get to drive around in a big car and all that kind of jazz. But maybe that isn't everything. Maybe it sounds like you found out it wasn't.
Yes, I did find out it wasn't, that it was actually, there was no meaning in it because there's no substance really.
Yeah,
It's
plus they always break, which really pisses me off.
yeah, sure, right. Exactly. Yeah, you just kind of realize that where you find meaning is kind of through yourself, that there's nothing I mean, here's the truth. There's nothing that can give you this feeling that is outside of yourself. Nothing. It wouldn't matter how many friends you had, what kind of material things that you get. Not that those things aren't fun, because life was fun for me before. It's not that it isn't, but the pure meaning, this feeling that you have everything you need and that nothing has to happen. You sort of can kind of become more equanimous. Like, in other words, like there's nothing that I need to happen, because everything that I need to feel a certain peace, I guess you would say, fulfillment is comes from within you, and nothing else, nothing from outside of you can satisfy that. And that's why there's lots of people that will tell stories of, I had this, I had that, I had this, but somehow I was still searching or whatever. I mean, I think I was a seeker my whole life, because, and I think this is true for a lot of people, we know that there's something more. We know that there's something more, but we just don't exactly know what that thing is, or
It's so true. So,
yeah.
Allison, before Kevin asked our last question, wow, time just flew by. Must be the state that we're in. What is one thing that, I know there's many, but what's the one thing that we, the listeners and the viewers, can do to kind of help move into this?
Well, for me, I believe there's many portals, everybody kind of has their own journey, I guess, but I would say the one thing that I think is the I hate to say it like this, the most efficient way would be through meditation. Because something happens when you meditate, and if you use the proper techniques, because what meditation really is you are kind of alchemizing yourself with the natural energy of the world. So you become in step, in tune with what is, instead of, when you're not meditating, you are kind of tuned into what is not, or what I call like the illusions of this world, the things that are outside of ourselves, but the truth is it's all energy. So in a meditative state, you're kind of alchemized with the energy that is. It's about being present, because if you think about it, presence is the only thing that is. Everything else is a dream. Your past is a dream. Your future is a dream. And so there's only that moment of presence that is true and real. And it is there that everything is provided for you, that you need to feel good.
Interesting. Baba Ram Dass, Richard Alpert wrote the book Be Here Now, which you just described the title, Be Here Now. It sounds like you found a way to believe in yourself through meditation and doing this. Our little podcast is called Believe in People, and we ask the same question every week. Now that you have discovered deep down what you're all about, why do you believe in people?
Well, I believe in people because I think that people in general are a reflection of ourselves. I mean, if I could get a little bit crazy here, the truth is that we're kind of here alone. And everything, even inanimate objects, but particularly people, are a reflection of what is within you. That is why we meet people that disturb us, that throw us off, that we maybe, I don't like that person, there's resistance. And then we meet people that we're like, oh, I just love this person. So it's all because we have both things in us. We are potentially good and we are potentially bad at all times. So I believe in people as being my teachers, because, for example, if I meet a person that rubs me the wrong way, I'll say it like that. I don't say, oh, that person's a horrible person. I'll say, okay, what is in me that I need to release that is causing me to think that it's that person. Because if you're full and whole, nothing can disturb you from that. So of course we're all on this journey, and I also think we're all here to help each other, help each other find our way home. Yeah. So that's why I believe in people. They're purposeful. The good and the bad are very purposeful for our growth, and they're all beautiful to me for those reasons.
Thank you so much, Allison. Allison, what's your website so we can post it?
Oh, thank you. It's AllisonLiss.love.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And I do also have a podcast.
Yay.
And what is that?
That's Allison Liss Meditation. And I just talk about all things to do with meditation. And also, I actually describe a lot of the techniques on there. I tried to make it as practical as I could, so people can actually learn some of the techniques that I teach, and that I use myself on a daily basis. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to post both of those for both our listeners and
Thank
our
you.
viewers. Thanks, Allison. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Allison.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Well, that was pretty inspirational. We live in a world full of traffic jams, cell phones, computers, chips, NVIDIA stock. Hey, what the heck? Maybe taking some time and sitting alone and looking inward, I'm sure there are tremendous health benefits from doing that.
I'm sure there is. And Kevin, I think Allison's sort of given us the opportunity, actually even almost the permission to just, pause, be in the moment, take a deep breath, and learn some techniques in meditation. And I'm going to post them too, so people can see what Allison's doing. If you've enjoyed this podcast and will take a moment to meditate, after you do, subscribe to our podcast, Believe in People. Thanks, everyone.